I am Claudiu, and I've been on the internet for 35 years. Well, not continuously. I have taken bathroom breaks here and there. But all that to say that I've seen it grow from just black and white, or blue and black, or green and black screen that was all about text, to the multitudes of colors and ads that we're seeing today. And so I've seen my fair share of fake information. And so if you've got a couple of minutes, I'll share some tips with you so that we can together discover what it takes to spot disinformation. What is fake information? What does it mean to be able to spot it, report it, identify it, share it with other people? Let's take a look. So the dirty tricks of disinformation are what this presentation is all about. Before we go into it, you need to know one thing. If you see any kind of information out there, you need to know who put it out, right? So there's no reason for you to trust me just because I'm the CEO of Informatica, president of MPC, Managed Privacy Canada, or Data Risk Canada, right? So what you need to know is tangible information. Who has said that I'm a legitimate professional? These organizations have said so, all right? That's important because when you deal with someone and they are pretending to be a professional, they need to be endorsed by an organization. If you're talking to an employee and they're applying for a job, well, they need to come with a resume that shows that they graduated from a college or university or some reputable place, and they have the transcript to prove it. Same thing in general. As a grown-up, you're going to have to prove yourself. And you can do that by getting certified. You can do that by writing books or writing white papers, getting out there and making a difference, right? But be sure to be verifiable, because if it's anonymous, then chances are it's made up. And how do you figure out who created that information? Well, that's going to be pretty tough on the internet. So you might just be happy with the skills to figure out whether something is true or false. Well, disinformation is always false. It's intentionally put out there to mislead us, to make us make mistakes or make the wrong choices. It's out there, and many of you, I bet, have already seen it. You've seen lies out there. Those are examples of disinformation. And the people who put it out are disinformers, people who look to do damage to the way that you think and to the information that's in your head. So you know that there are many ways to do this. One of them is kind of a cool term, actually, astroturfing. That's when you're not exactly sure who put out that information. In fact, in some cases, it looks like a news program. It looks like a news flash, or it looks like a review. Some of the glowing reviews on online retail sites can sound really odd and really positive. Well, some of those are paid ads and paid influencers, and we need to be aware of them, primarily because, well, they can give you the wrong idea about a product and you end up spending money on it, and that could be fraudulent. Red herrings are simply distractions. They're essentially irrelevant information that's sprayed in our general direction so that they distract from something that is obviously false. A false dichotomy is when you're given two options, one choice, and you're not told that there are so many other choices. Clearly, we don't live in a black and white world. And so you need to know that you're able to push back. You can say, hey, you know what? Let me think about that, because that sounds like there are too few options. Maybe there's a third option, right? Think outside the box. In some cases, politicians will come to you and say, you're either with us and you choose this law that might be privacy invasive, or you're with the bad people who harm you and you're likely to be in danger, right? Selling based on fear, selling based on uncertainty or doubt. That's called FUD. That's easily spotted if you can practice it, right? Cherry picking is just picking and choosing the right things. If you're looking at a criminal and they're saying, well, yeah, but I really like dogs and cats are so furry. So what if I've done some bad things in my life, right? Cherry picking means you're looking at the bright spots so as to be distracted from the sad reality. Emotional appeals. Emotional appeals are a way to tap into our brains and maybe influence us based on some of the brain bugs that you're going to learn about in our other seminar, in our other course. These are very effective, and that these work, right? As we approach the holidays, you're going to see a lot of ads for all kinds of stuff that you don't need, but they're presented so well. And in some cases, they're for fake charities that show you people or animals or other things that really need your help. Well, we don't need any more fake charities. There's lots of people who need our help, but we need to know how to choose the right ones, because fraudsters will take advantage of various times of year or various people and see if they can extract money from them, right? And of course, they're going to appeal to you with emotion, and they're going to appeal to you with clickbait, and you're going to be torn. You're going to say, I really know that I shouldn't be clicking on this, but it seems so irresistible. And of course, your click is going to be recorded. Of course, they're going to know how long you spend reading whatever it is. And if possible, they're going to have access to your information as well, because, well, on social media, they can. So there are various ways to paint people and their opinions in the wrong light. For example, an ad hominem is a way to simply insult them as a distraction from illustrating the fact that they might be saying something that's true, right? If you were a bad guy and you didn't know how to argue against a point that is actually valid, you would simply insult the other person. And that has an emotional impact, especially on an audience that is watching you. Politicians do this a lot. Similar to doubt mongering, right? This is casting doubt on facts that we know. We know that we should get our vaccines, but what if they kill us, right? That's casting significant doubt, because everybody knows that nothing is 100% true or 100% false. And so they're saying, are you willing to take the chance? Well, yes, these have been proven to work in almost all cases, and the benefits outweigh the risks. And we need to understand a little bit about statistics and probability so that we can make our own decisions and think on our own 2 feet. A slippery slope is what someone literally is talking about a disastrous situation that happens if you just do a bit of good, because they know that if you're going to do a bit of good, you're going to do a lot of good. But they might say, well, you know what? If you help those people and you deal with their immediate hunger situation, they're going to bankrupt our entire country. And you wouldn't want your little brother to go hungry, would you? So those kinds of slippery slopes are evident, and in some cases they're hilarious, but you can learn to spot them. Same thing when something is so false that disinformers have no choice but just to turn up the volume and to spray so many lies across the internet that people might say, you know what, that's okay, but I mean, it sounded ridiculous at first, but now that I've heard it 100 times, I don't know what to believe. That's a fire hose of falsehoods. And people who have a lot of money, companies, brands, politicians, they can turn up that volume just by throwing more money at it. Don't be fooled. This is simply an attempt to create a bandwagon effect where more and more people doubt what they're seeing. So cognitive biases are the way that you take advantage of the way people think. Confirmation bias is one of the biggest ones. People don't like to be wrong, and people don't like to change their minds, right? You know this firsthand, right? Once you've made up your mind, it's very hard to change it. And so there's a lot of people out there who are saying, well, yeah, so you're a scientist and you've been at this for decades. And there are thousands of other scientists like yourself who have dedicated their lives to medicine. But you know what? I feel like you might be wrong. So I'll go with my gut feel. That's confirmation bias. That's ignoring something that you know it's probably true, but you really find it uncomfortable to change your mind. And I mentioned earlier that the bandwagon effect is something that has to do with probability. Somebody is essentially saying, so you're telling me that you have this opinion, which is based on fact and science, but you know, a billion other people disagree with you. Are you saying they're all wrong? Well, yes, absolutely. And statistically, there's a good chance that they are. Anchoring bias is very interesting. It's something that forces you to say something upfront, something first, and then afterwards, people will rely on that initial statement and go back to it as they go and try to make a decision. So what you see first matters. It's that first few seconds that matter. And when you're hooked by this type of anchor, you might not even know that you've been influenced. So always be careful when you hear the first thing that is being said, right? And of course, we're always impressed by celebrities and politicians, people with power. And we think that power equals truth instinctively. And that's not true. And that's a call to authority. That's an appeal to authority. And that's a bias that always exists in humans. We want to believe in some of the more powerful people that we see because we think they might even take care of us if we join their camp. But that's not true. In many cases, they abuse their power, and we need to stay sharp and know when that's happening. Same thing with the availability heuristic. This is a complicated way to simply say, you know what? I've seen the same car a few times today. There's something going on here. I'm seeing a lot of this car. And then you look at your car and it's the same car. Well, you're obviously biased towards that. That's a bias that lets you see things that are on your mind, right? And if marketers know how to play this availability heuristic and they keep on buying posters along, let's say, the route that you take to school, well, that's eventually going to impact you. You're going to be thinking to yourself, maybe I should buy that product because I've just finished seeing 100 different posters of the same thing. Now, when you go downtown and you see a whole bunch of ads and you're wondering why, they're only a few meters apart. One would suffice. Well, that's not true. How many you see matters. A halo effect is the kind of thing that makes us believe that people that we like are great. And if we know something positive about them, or we dig and we find something good, then we just assume they're good people. And that's a halo effect. Be careful with those. But there's a ton more knowledge where that came from. There's a lot more courses. And of course, we have an additional course on razors, on philosophical razors. And those are pretty sharp. So stay sharp, and we'll see you next time.